Monday, June 10th at 6:30 PM. The first order of business will be to do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, in liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay. First order of business tonight is that we will be holding a public hearing for the purposes of listening to a modification for the Whitewood subdivision. I would now like to take a motion.
Can't hear you.
You can't hear me? Can you hear me now?
You're speaking to the mic, Chris.
No, the mic goes to home.
Well, there are some speakers in here as well.
Oh,
so
yeah. Oh, there they go.
There we go.
There we go.
Okay. So I would now take a motion to open the public hearing for Whitewood's modification and to return to regular planning board meeting upon its conclusion.
I would make such motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, starting with Matthew?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. All right. I'm going to read the notice that was published for this public hearing. It's the Town of Lunenburg public hearing. The Lunenburg Planning Board will hold a public hearing on June 10th, 2013 at 6:30 PM at the Town Hall at 17 Main Street, Lunenburg, Mass. 01462. The public hearing will be to hear and discuss a modification to a development plan review and special permit under Section 5.5 Planned Residential Area of the Protective Bylaw of the Town of Lunenburg for 221 White Street, map 75, parcel 53. The owner applicant is RIW Realty Trust, John I. White, trustee, 13 Jacqueline Drive, Lunenburg, Mass. Materials are available for viewing at the planning office at 960 Massachusetts Avenue in Lunenburg, Mass. 01462. This meeting has been posted in and advertised in the Fitchburg Sentinel on May 27th and June 3rd. And there has been certified mail that has gone out to the abutters, notifying them of this meeting, both the abutters in Lunenburg and in Fitchburg. That being said, I would now listen to whoever is going to be presenting on behalf of the applicant as to the modification that's being requested.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Bill Hannigan with Hannigan Engineering. The proposed modification that we're making is to the Phase 3 portion of the project. I'll speak loudly, but I'll move over to...
Take
Take the mic with you, Bill.
And can I just reiterate, this is the one down at the Mobile, is that correct?
This is the one that's down on Mass Ave from
On Mass
Mackey's.
Avenue.
The new members can identify
Right.
Whitewoods.
Okay.
And it's actually, if you come in from the mobile station and you drive up to the end of Richards Way and take a left on a Mayfield Circle, or Mayfield Road, then you take a right onto Jacqueline Drive, then Janet is the new road that we're proposing. I'm going to go back to the originally approved plan, just to start with that as a basis. The originally approved plan had a total of 5 buildings, 2 buildings that had 3 units in it, and 3 buildings that had 4 units in it. These 3 buildings have been constructed, this roadway has been constructed, and what we're here to do is modify this roadway section here, along with the location and orientation of these 2 buildings. We go to the new plan, and the new plan shows essentially the same roadway system. It has been shifted slightly to the south to allow for the setbacks to be met within the planned residential permit. So the waivers that we had asked for previously are still in place. Those are still held with the plan, and we are adding one additional waiver request, which would be for these 2 buildings and these 2 buildings, that the separation distance between the 2 buildings be less than 50 feet, which is required under the zoning, and we're asking for a waiver down to 30 feet. We're showing 34 feet, I believe, 32 feet between these two buildings and 34 feet between these two buildings here. And that's actually between the building sidewall of these units and the optional, if you will, sunroom deck on the back, because that could become living space, so that's the dimension that we're talking about. The orientation basically is to allow these two buildings to face Jacqueline Drive, and what that'll allow the developer to do is to construct those buildings in a more financial way, a better way of doing that because of the fact of the way the market is right now. The units as a quad unit basically require that you get the financing for the entire building, even if you only have 1 or 2 units sold. This will allow him to basically finance just this building, 2 units, then just this building, 2 units, etc., which is much more, it's viable, more viable. The other thing it does is it does eliminate the need for sprinkler systems within the buildings for these 4 buildings and these 8 units, essentially. So the number of units on the project does not change. The layout essentially remains the same, with the exception of, instead of there being 4 driveway connections on this side street from each, from the buildings, there are now only 2. We have kept the turnaround area at the end, which is something that the fire department wanted from the original design. We have maintained that. We have also maintained the buffer around the buildings, which has been planted. Some of that may need to be relocated in this area here in order to construct that turnaround area. The utility connections essentially remain the same, with the exception of these utilities obviously would go to this street here instead of to Janet Lane. Aside from that, the drainage essentially is the same. It didn't really change that much, just really rotating and separating the buildings is what we've done. But we do need that additional waiver.
Okay, just so that I'm clear here, Bill, I see the original documents from June 28th of 2005. There was a review of the waivers, and it says it was updated as of May 22nd. What are the updates relative to that particular document, do you know?
Excuse me. First of all, let me note a typo in the 3rd paragraph down. Excuse me, it should say that the following is the original list of required waivers for the project as updated in the letter of June 28th, 2005. That should say 2005, not 2013. And the waivers that were granted as part of the original project follow that. Okay. When you get to the 4th page,
okay,
the following additional waiver is requested for the remaining 8 units on the project as part of the modification request being submitted. So that's the additional waiver. All the other waivers have been granted and have been completed. A couple of them were temporary waivers, which have been completed at this point in time. And as I said, that really is down to 30 feet from the 50 that's allowable under the regulations.
okay.
We also had submitted an update to the impact statement, and there really are no significant changes to the impact statement relative to this, as the traffic will be the same, the impervious area is essentially the same. It's just really the layout of those 2, or those 4 units within 2 buildings.
Okay, so is there technically no true update to the March 30th, 2005 document?
Well, we did add in the information about how we're changing the buildings.
Okay.
And in the product description, if you look at the italicized section, says additional waiver requested for the buildings being 30 feet for the remaining portion of the project that's depicted on the modified plan. And the reason that I added that was because that first section talks about the dimensional requirements, and that would be something that would be different, because we did cite what other waivers we were asking for in the EIS. So I wanted to update that. Essentially, everything else stayed the same. I did make note regarding the wetlands and water section, and I believe the stormwater and sewer sections, that no changes were anticipated by the design.
Okay,
The sewer, there's no additional permitting is required, and I believe that was it. And then we did talk about the phasing at the very end of it. Okay, so the phasing, originally the phasing, we were estimating at the time 2 years. That didn't obviously happen. So the time frame has been exceeded due to extreme economic conditions. As the market appears to be returning to more normal conditions, anticipate the remaining portion of Phase 3 development would be completed within the next 2 years. So we do think that the remaining 4 buildings will be constructed over the next 2 years, hopefully.
do any members of the board have a question for the applicant at the moment?
Jess is here.
I have a question. I just want to make sure I understand the existing construction or existing state of the project. Do you mind if I ask?
Go ahead.
So right now, if I understand correctly, the 3 units, the 3 buildings across that, those are all built?
Correct.
And nothing below that road there?
Roadway system is built.
Yep.
Nothing is built in here yet,
Okay.
except for the buffer. The buffer's been installed.
And could I have a quick look? So the original plan, I just want to understand, the original plan, those duplexes were clustered into 2 buildings rather than 4 buildings?
Correct. They were 4-unit buildings. One
Oh,
here
okay.
and one here.
And they were pretty much just like that one in the top right as far as what they look like? Okay.
It's the original plan.
And it just had 2 of those going the
Gotcha.
other way.
Okay, thanks for explaining that. I got a question to the board, just at a glance, just trying to understand. It was, in terms of, the kind of how, the way the plan came in with this kind of configuration, was this, like a 40B or?
No.
Okay.
private.
It's a private, and it just came under the PRA section of our bylaw.
What's the?
The planned residential unit area. Off the top of my head, I can't.
It's a
quote,
special,
so-
it's a special permit that was issued as part of the overall project was phased into 3 parts: the subdivision, the elderly housing, and the planned residential area.
And
This is the 3rd phase of the 3 phases.
Gotcha. So just real quick summary, just so I understand. This special approval process, is this, when you talk about senior housing, so does this is sort of like official senior housing that kind of goes?
Let's be clear, the project was 3 phases. The first phase was Phase 1, which was single housing units,
Which are all built.
which are all built.
Gotcha.
There was a second phase of the problem, if you were to look at this map here, below Richards Road here.
On the other side.
Under, down here is an over 55 section,
Already built.
already built.
Okay.
This is the 3rd section, which is just part of the PRA, which are individual condominium units.
These are also over 55 as well.
Yes.
And is the, I'm sorry to ask so many questions, I just want to make sure I understand. So my understanding is this, whatever this came under, this is, allows for greater density than the standard residential zoning typically allows, or is it,
There's a rather large tract of land that goes along with this, that goes behind all the rest of the unit,
okay.
Building units. So I believe that the density is within the zoning. The special permit basically allows you to take a larger tract of land and develop a portion of it and leave the rest as open space, which is what we've done here.
okay, thanks a lot. I just wanted to understand the context.
Yep.
Thanks a lot.
Any other questions from any of the other board members at the moment?
Yes, excuse me. So there is no affordability aspect to these 8 units?
No.
Thank you. That's it.
We did try to do that originally, if I
Yes.
remember.
Did, I gave them to the town,
Why don't you come to the mic, Jed?
Originally it was.
Yeah, just, I'll let Mr. White explain, but the fact of the matter is that Mr. White did try to, with his project, to make some of these units affordable. It became, for lack of a better word, somewhat cumbersome to be able to do that within the community.
well, we did allow 2 out of the first 10, sold them at less than cost, and then it turned out that they were not allowed to be affordable, even though they were in the affordable range. So that would not work with what we're doing now.
Thank you.
So the town did lose out on what was a good faith effort to help with our affordable housing stock.
Just to clarify that, the affordable process for it, they weren't allowed to be counted as affordable units under the town's affordable count, for example. That was the problem with the units because of the process, because this was done in a local process and not through the 40B process. The units were not eligible to be counted within the 40B count of affordable units within the town. So that was the hiccup that happened at the end. Even though the effort was made, the state wouldn't recognize them.
And just while we're on this topic, just to wrap up, so I understand there's a large senior component to the project, which is great. Does that count, the town also has a sort of a goal, some goals around senior housing?
This is not applicable. The only portion of it would have been the affordable component,
Gotcha.
where they want 10% of a community's housing stock to be affordable.
All right, thanks a lot.
Okay. If I could ask our reviewing engineer to come up and kind of talk to his report and findings relative to this modification?
How you doing?
Good, how are you?
Jesse Johnson, David Ross Associates. I think I can be brief on this one. As it was mentioned earlier by Mr. Hannigan, it's a pretty benign, I guess you can say, reconfiguration. They didn't change the impervious surface. They didn't change a number of utility connections. Driveway curb cuts are the same number. They just reoriented. If I could throw an opinion, I think it actually looks like a better product. Rearranged this way, I think the units will be more attractive to buyers than having the duplexes versus the quads. They seem to be a little bit more marketable. My only question was whether the fire department had any concerns with the T-turnaround. That was changed a little bit, so I had just suggested that that be followed through on, and I understand that that had been taken care of.
Right.
So
What I do
outside of
have-
that, I'm okay with it.
Okay. What I do have is what we received today. It was directed to our planning director, and it says, "Hi, Marion. In regards to our conversation referencing the proposed change to Jacqueline/Janet Drive, change in Whitewoods, we have no issue with the change from 2 to 4 unit structures to 4 to 2 unit structures. The T turnaround at the end of the street was in the existing accepted plan and does not change with the modification. Respectfully, Patrick A. Sullivan, Chief, Lunenburg Fire Department, 655 Massachusetts Avenue, Lunenburg, Mass. 01462.
Mr. Chairman, I can add to that Chief Sullivan also went on site. He not only reviewed the plan, he went down on site, too.
Okay, very good. All right, so I did have one question of my own, and before I ask the board for additional questions, just to ensure, Marion, I don't know if you have the answer or whether or not it's been directed. I'm assuming you still have the allotted allocation for sewer for the remainder of the project? Okay, I just wanted to make sure that we didn't miss anything in the process here. Okay. All right, so the order of business before us on one piece is relative to the original June 28th, 2005 memo that was updated as of 5/22, and that was in section, on page 4. I believe it's the beginning of the new section. It says, "The following additional waivers requested for the remaining 8 units on the project as part of the modification request being submitted." This waiver is from section 5.5.1.2G that says, "If there is more than one building containing dwelling units on a single lot, there shall be a minimum of 50 feet between such buildings." A waiver is required for this modification to the project to allow the buildings on Janet Lane to be constructed as duplex units with a minimum of 30 feet between such buildings. As stated above, this project is being reconfigured to allow the completion of the project as duplex units. The recent economic conditions have made the financing of larger building 4 units restrictive in advancing the sale of units within the development. Essentially, with a 4-unit building, the applicant may have 1 or 2 potential buyers, but would have to fund the construction of the entire building, roadway, utilities, etc., to complete the sale of a single unit. The carrying costs of this type of construction in this market are not feasible. To accomplish the completion of the project, duplex construction makes the most sense. And then it says, it should be noted that the 30-foot distance is due to the potential sunroom on the back of the units that will now be facing Jacqueline Drive. The minimum distance between the main buildings is approximately 40 feet. So one of our actions is we need to vote on whether or not to approve that waiver for this modification. So,
Public comment before we vote.
well, we can do that, but we can also approve this modification first, this plan first. But
Oh, okay.
if you
No,
would prefer...
I would make a
well,
motion to approve the modification to the plan,
Okay. The acceptance of the waiver.
the acceptance of the waiver of the plan.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Was there any
Seeing-
public comment?
Huh?
Was there any
We're
public?
going to have some public comment after we take this vote on the waiver. If there's nothing, then I would...
Yeah, I got,
Okay.
sorry, I always have something. Just out of curiosity, so, yeah, I mean, it seems pretty reasonable to me on the face of it. Let's say you had two buildings on two adjacent lots. Just out of curiosity, what's the closest our current zoning would allow two residential to come together? Is it like 20 and 20? Or-
No, on our bylaw,
Is this side yard?
it's the 175 through the building, it's different than...
Right, but what is it from the side yard? Is it 40?
No.
Sideline?
No, it's much less.
I don't know, we'll have to take a look at it.
It's much less than that.
Didn't you just say it was 50?
The requirement,
The requirement here is
50 for
50.
the requirement in the PRA bylaw is 50
50.
between buildings if you have more than one building along. I believe the sideline is 20 feet.
Yeah,
I think that's what I was thinking
Right.
too. So I think it would, like, if you had two lots, because it would be like 20 and 20, I think, or
Correct.
40, yeah, that's,
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
recall. off the
So,
top of
so as I said in the letter, the main buildings are actually 40-plus feet between each other. It's really the back, these deck, sunroom areas, those what get you down to 30.
30.
Well, if you don't approve it, they're going to be 0 feet apart, so.
Yeah, I mean, the only difference is it's, I was thinking that too, 30 is better than 0. The difference is you take away the sprinkler requirement, but, still, I think it's pretty common to have, 30 feet MLS.
I'm going to comment about the
Residential.
sprinklers.
What's that?
The sprinklers, they're not necessarily to save the building, they're to save the people, and considering that this is elderly or aged, I think that the removal of the sprinklers would be not a good idea. Just my opinion.
It's a building issue.
Yeah, that's a building code issue, it's not planned.
Well, they're not required. They're required for the 8-unit, for the 4-unit buildings, are they not?
That'd be the Mass State Building Code,
Yeah,
not
by building code,
Gilbert
that's-
Planning Board.
It's a building official issue.
The planning board is allowing them to split the 4 units, which also negates that requirement.
That's true.
Right.
I just think it's it's a concern. If you've got elderly people living at home, fire protection would be a good thing. Just,
The building code
But that's
deals,
outside of the jurisdiction
Yeah.
of the planning board. That really
Okay.
comes under the building official.
my bad, sorry.
Ours is relative to the zoning. All right, if there's no other comment, I'd like to take a roll call vote in approval of the waiver.
Do we want to get comment before we vote, or?
If you would like to have public comment first, we can do that
Yeah, I
as
think
well.
that'd be helpful, just
Okay.
in case there's other information.
All right, I will now open this up to public comment relative to the modification. Is there anybody that would like to speak as an opponent? Is there anybody that would like to speak as a proponent? Please come up and state your name and address, please.
Hi, Kyle Flingstrom, 3 Maysfield Road, and I'm here to speak in favor of the waiver.
Okay, thank you. Would anybody else like to speak as a proponent? Seeing none, I will go back to the board and ask for now the vote on the motion to approve the waiver for the distance of, reducing the distance to 30 feet between the buildings. And I would like to start with, a yes vote would be an approval, no would be against, and I'll start with Matthew on a roll call vote.
Say yes?
yes.
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 Yes. Okay, now, the final piece of business is on the overall modification. I'd take a motion to approve the overall modification for,
Oh, sorry.
go ahead. For Whitewoods.
Joanne doesn't waste time.
I make a motion to approve the overall waiver for
Modification.
modification to the plan for Whitewoods.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll take a roll call vote again, starting with Matthew.
Aye. Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
Yes.
I heard the aye and the yes.
That being
My
said,
turn.
I would now entertain a motion to close this public hearing to return to our regularly scheduled meeting.
So moved. So moved.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you, have a
Welcome.
good night.
Just a clarification, I think you may need to also take a vote on the modification for development plan review, which is not part of public hearing, but it's actually, it is actually a second application, or was that one
That
vote
would,
for both?
that would not go along.
One vote for both?
Yeah, one
Yeah.
vote.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Have a good night.
Thank you very
Right.
much.
I should have brought that to you, Jesse, I forgot.
Oh, the other, that's fine.
All right.
I'll come
Thank
see
you.
ya.
Is there anything else that Justin needs to be here for? No?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, our next order of business is reorganization
Well, my
of the board.
affordability was, my concern about the affordability was that if they've already built the affordable units, they're just making these more lucrative.
Right.
The separation does alleviate the requirement for fire protection, but I don't think it's out of our bounds to require that, to allow them to make this revision, right?
I don't know that I understood the question. What was that? I didn't hear.
The state law requires that buildings of, I think it's 4 units or more, require fire protection, like suppression, sprinklers. And by splitting these 4-unit buildings into 2-unit buildings, they're not required that, but that requirement is alleviated by our allowing the revision, the modification, to the approved plan. Now, would it not be within our jurisdiction to put a condition upon the approval?
No, when it comes to the things that are under the control and germane of the building official, no. That's really the building official's
Okay.
jurisdiction. Okay. All right. Next order of business is the reorganization of the planning board. For those of you that are new members, is that the planning board is comprised of the chairman, a vice chair, a clerk, a representative to the MRPC, a representative to the Massachusetts Joint Traffic Commission, a representative to the school building committee, and a representative to the school reuse committee representatives. So tonight, what I will entertain is, and make motions for folks to these particular positions, ask for a second, and then we'll take a vote. So we're going to start with chair. And just so that I'm perfectly clear, at this point in time, I have served at the chair for, I'm not quite sure how many years it is.
7.
So at this point in time, I'm not interested in either being the chair, the vice chair, or the clerk. So at this point in time, I'm going to make my recommendation for chair to, my nomination for chair to be Joanna Bellata. Are there any other do I have a second to that, first of all?
Second.
Do I have any other nominations for the position of chair? Not hearing any, could we take a vote then? All in favor of having Joanna Bellata as the chairman of the planning board, please say aye.
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 Aye. Okay, now vice chair. I would make a nomination for vice chair to be Nathan Lockwood.
I would second that.
Okay. Is there any other nominations?
Oh, no, that works.
Okay.
Nathan,
No.
do you want to, does that work, your schedule?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's a much lighter job than the chair jobs.
Okay. If there's no other nominations, then I would like to take a vote for the approval of Nathan Lockwood as vice chair.
Aye.
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 Aye. Okay, now clerk. Guess what? who would we like? Who would like to be clerk? Matthew or Damon? Do you have a,
Is there a job description?
Aaron, can you give the job description for the
Yes, I
clerk,
can
please?
give the job description. You really will work under the chairman, and there's often that we have some signature papers that need to be signed by a clerk. And that really, in essence, would be a major part of the job that you would be responsible for that phase. And then, of course, if the chair is not able to be present, vice chair isn't able to be present, then you would be the next person in line to do
Tom
that.
Blacken was the
But
chair.
that doesn't happen very often, Damon, really it doesn't.
And essentially, it's signing.
Yeah.
When we sign a plan, there, on two of the sheets, there's the clerk's signature.
Another legal.
That's, and Ernie Sund was the chair. Clerk on the selectmen. So it's not a big role, it's not.
Are you interested in it? Because I wouldn't mind just sitting back and getting a feel for it,
Okay.
being on the board, but, you know, either way.
So in that case, Damon, do you mind if we nominate you for the position of clerk?
Go for it. I'm not doing enough yet.
Thank you, Damon.
Okay. All right, we're going to nominate Damon
Who did we get here?
Damon McQuaid.
Damon,
As
thank you.
clerk, I would second that.
Okay.
I'm in favor.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. All right, next is our representative to MRPC. That's the Massachusetts Regional Planning Commission. They typically meet once a month, I believe, on a Wednesday.
Last Tuesday.
Is it the last Tuesday?
Yes, I did attend that meeting. Mr. Bodkin was on it, and where he wasn't not on the planning board, their meeting was last 2 Tuesdays ago, and I did go to the meeting. So if no one is really set on that, I would like to join the MRPC. I would like to be the candidate if the board is okay with that.
Fine by me.
Sure.
All right, could I have somebody, okay, I'll nominate Joanna Bellata to be our representative for MRPC. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, okay. Now for MJTC, this is the Massachusetts Joint Transportation Committee.
And they meet the second Wednesday, that's what I was on. And they meet the second Wednesday of every month, and it's all planners within the Montechusett region. It's a great committee, and that's kind of goes the MJTC up to MRPC to the MPO.
And MJTC stands for Massachusetts Joint Transport,
Montechusett Joint Transit Committee.
Committee? Gotcha.
And then the MRPC is Montechusett Regional Planning Committee.
Gotcha. And these are pretty important roles. I mean, in
Yeah,
the
it's
sense that,
working with all the communities for roads, for tips, any state funding. They'll work, like with us right now, they're helping us with master planning. There's a multitude of facets that all three do. Paula Bertram is on the MPO as the selectman representative. I was on MJTC, and as I said, Tom was on MRPC. So,
and a lot of discussion, I understand, happens like on MGTC and MRPC about where one of the first places we hear about information regarding state funding that's available for different, as grants for either different types of projects, like whether it's a transportation project or in some cases it's funding to get professional assistance with planning or different things like that. So it's really great to
I
have
think you'd enjoy it. Nancy.
somebody
It
there.
sounds like I would.
Yeah, I think you'd enjoy it.
Sounds like it's up my alley.
Yeah. So I would nominate Matthew for MJTC, if he would so accept the position.
Second.
Second? Okay, a vote, please. Aye.
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 Okay.
Vote for yourself, Matthew.
Aye. Wasn't sure if I was supposed to or
No,
not.
vote for yourself. You got to be your strongest advocate.
Okay, next is our representative for the School Building Committee. Currently, that representative is Nathan Lockwood. Nathan, are you interested in continuing in that role?
How many other committees are left? Is that the only one?
The only other one is the School Reuse Committee.
I don't, yeah, building.
The School Reuse Committee.
I was going
Yeah,
to
the Board of
volunteer. Building Reuse
Selectmen,
Committee.
Nathan,
That's what they're
has
gonna do
just
with all the
organized.
Center buildings, what they should do with East Passio, the selectmen have thoughts about
Yeah.
this.
Yeah, I was going to volunteer for that
Where
one.
he's on the historical
Okay,
for
yeah,
these
I was gonna
buildings.
say,
Completely
whatever
makes
you
sense.
want, I'd be happy to switch
So I would
off,
make a
so-
motion to put Nathan on his continuing committee if he so.
Sure.
And then Damon on the town use
Reuse.
reuse committee if they both accept.
Okay, well,
Absolutely.
let's start
I'll
with the
second that.
first one. The
Nathan,
building
accept.
committee, Nathan, we have a nomination for Nathan. Do I have a second?
Second?
Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay, and school reuse committee? We have,
Damon.
Or is it school or building reuse committee? What
it says school reuse,
It's called, I was given the name School Reuse Committee.
And
It
the
could be-
reason is because they're looking at reusing TC Passio.
Passios, okay.
So that's why they're calling it the school, because they're thinking of, the idea is moving the town buildings into TC Passio and the Eagle House into TC Passio. So then it becomes, well, what are we gonna do with all these buildings that are in the center of our town now vacant?
And there'll be a representative from the from the Board of Selectmen, Planning Board, Historical Commission. Now I've lost the other. And then a couple of citizens at large.
And I believe it's gonna be a very fast-paced committee, because they wanna have a recommendation for the fall special.
They want to have an exit
We
plan.
always have a
Yep.
small, a fall town meeting.
Yep.
They want to have a recommendation from this committee, what to do with all of the buildings.
Great.
So I think it's a committee that's going to be working very fast to come up with that recommendation.
Excellent.
so we have a nomination of Damon,
Damon.
and we have a second?
Yes.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Beautiful. Very good. So we have reorganized the board. Madam Chairman, it is all yours. I pass
Thank
the
you.
reins.
You should
Well-
change seats. No, it's a kind of a formality.
Okay.
Don't forget your
Well,
name.
that-
When they
being the
did, when they
case-
worked with the Board of Selectmen, they kept moving Dave Matthews down the line, and I'm thinking to myself, pretty soon he's going to be in the other room.
Move the vice chair.
This worked out well. You and I can stay where we are.
Okay, is everybody moved?
Yeah, I used to like having first vote, though, down on that left end.
All right, could I have my agenda, please?
Yes, you can. There you go, Toby. And I would like to give a special thanks to Toby for 7 years, taking care of 5 people, keeping us on track, on mission. You did a great job, and I hope I can do a smidgen of what you did. Thank you very, very much for your time and effort.
And Madam Chairman, Toby had served previously for how many years, Toby?
I'm approaching close to 20 as a member of the planning
Yeah,
board.
so,
But he was vice chair for,
Yeah, for a while, too.
and I would like to say, as planning director, I think this is a good reorganization, and looking forward to working with all of you under those premises.
thank you. Okay, so the first thing we have, board organization is done, minutes approval. We have a long list, if we want to go down. Were any of them executive session minutes? No, okay. So do I have a motion for 413? Everybody got these emailed?
Yes.
Everybody had an opportunity to review? Sorry, I'm gonna have to break my habit.
Yes, they should have been emailed. They should have been emailed. Everybody should have opportunity to read the minutes. So now we're just signing them. So the first set we have, do I have a motion for 41313?
I move that we approve the minutes of 4/13/2013.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Nathan.
Are Matt and I voting on this since we weren't members of the board at that time?
Yes, you received the minutes in your email. If you've taken the opportunity to review them, yes, you can vote to approve.
Okay.
Okay?
Good question.
So I have
So just as a point of reference, you will see the little dotted lines at the top heading of the report. That's where the town clerk would like us to initial.
Okay.
Okay?
You just initial them.
okay, so I had a motion and a second for 41313. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Well, 420 is already on its way to you. Do I have a motion for 42013? That was again emailed to all of us.
Motion to approve the minutes of April 20.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Toby. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, perfect. Next coming down is 42213.
Which is
Were
public hearing.
emailed to you, was a public hearing. Well, wait, which one? No, not the one that they've got coming now. There were 2 for 422.
Yeah.
The public hearing's the second one.
Yes.
Right now, I'm looking for a motion for the original.
Okay.
For the regular public,
For the regular meeting. Planning board meeting.
I make the motion to approve the meeting minutes for 4/22 for our regular planning board meeting.
And
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Now coming down is April 22nd, 13, the public hearing for Arrows Estates.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for the public hearing for Arrows Estates on 4/22.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 The next is April 24th, 2013, public hearing for 35 Lemonster Road. Again, these were emailed to all of
This
us.
is a continuation of it.
I make the motion to approve the minutes of 4/24 for 35 Lemonster Road. Was that the public hearing?
Yes.
Okay, for the public hearing for 35 Lemonster Road.
Second.
What date was the continuation on, though?
It was a continuation, I think we continued it for that same time. That's what,
On the same day?
yeah, yeah. Okay.
Okay, so then the next one we have,
I don't think you got the approvals on the 4/24, 35 Lemonster Road.
Right,
You got the motions, but you didn't get a vote on approval.
I don't know, right now, who has 424 in front of them?
Just the 4/24?
Yes.
No, just 22.
I have it. This is,
That's not a public hearing, that's just the planning board meeting. Is that correct, Toby? Or is that a public hearing?
Look at the top, Toby.
this just says that it's the
Okay,
minutes of the meeting. It doesn't say it's
So I want to
public.
back up. Because right now, I'm looking for a motion to approve the planning board April 24th, 13 minutes.
Which is this that I have in front of me.
Yes, that you have in front of you, that was emailed to everybody.
Motion to approve the planning board 4/24, 2013 minutes.
Thank you.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Now coming down is the continuation, public hearing for 35 Lemonster Road, which was, again, April 24th, 2013.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve the continuation of 35 Lemonster.
Do you have minutes for May
Road.
13th?
Second.
And last but not, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And last but not least, May 13, 2003 is our last set of minutes to approve. I would look for a motion.
So motion to approve the minutes of May 13.
Second?
It's been seconded. It was moved and seconded.
Oh, sorry, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Perfect. Minutes ago.
If you'll pass them back up here, I can, as you finish the signing, we don't lose them.
Okay, going into committee reports. I have a request, Marion, just where it says MJTC, MRPC.
Yes.
Could we put a dash in the representative's name next to it?
From now on?
Yeah,
Yes.
just because for years, as a member, I could never remember
Okay.
which one Bob had and which one Tom had.
Yes, I will be very glad to do that,
Pass
Madam
those
Chair.
down, please.
And now that
Thank
we
you.
have two school things, just to keep that. Are these all the minutes?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, we got something going.
Those are all your minutes.
Thank you.
Okay, MJTC report, there was no meeting, so I had nothing to...
Excuse me, Madam
Oh,
Chair, you've skipped capital planning, it's just a one-sentence thing.
It's the last thing on the agenda.
Oh, sorry, I
That's
had
okay.
it up further in my head. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Do you want to go first? I'd be
No,
more than
not
happy
at
to let
all.
you go first.
Not at all.
All right, so MJTC, there was nothing to report. MRPC, my first meeting I went to was 2 weeks ago, and they spent a lot of the meeting going over, they're coming up with a new system to be able to do their budgets. the state budgets, and they showed us where and what roads they were starting to work on. And I am bringing all the minutes back.
Thank you.
All the attachments, so that way you have them for files if you want to review them and know what's going on. You have access to them, but I don't think I need filing drawers of all.
No, and I'd like them, everything in the office anyway, because people come in and ask for things, and that is often something that they ask about. What are they doing at MRPC?
Okay.
So we don't keep track of all that.
All right. Nathan, School Building Committee.
Yeah, so the school building committee has not met since we last met. However, there have been several communications from the school building committee, which I'm refreshing my memory about at the moment. Our next meeting is next Monday at TC Pasio's. Basically, I think the couple pieces of big news, just to summarize, are that there has been a change in the schedule regarding the meeting with the MSBA to approve the preferred schematic.
Okay.
That was scheduled for June 5th, and that was moved to July 31st. That is not projected to have an impact on the date of, when...
September, October.
Yeah, when the school could open in terms of that. But I think the notion is it gives the team more time to come up with a quality schematic with best decisions made. That's one piece of news. The other piece of news is that they're forming a subcommittee to select a construction manager at risk. And I think that subcommittee will be approved, discussed and approved at next Monday, June 17th meeting of the school building committee. So those are probably the two biggest pieces of news. Now, I have a question. Marion, are you receiving these updates from Mary and Loxie?
I have been, but I haven't had anything recently, and I guess you explained it, you haven't met.
Yeah. This the stuff I'm reading you this is from May 29th.
Yeah.
They have some workshops that are going on, but if you want more information, I can email it to the board or email it to Marion to distribute. But I think that pretty well summarizes the key things at the moment.
Okay. Thank you, Nathan. Great job. Capital Planning Committee?
The Capital Planning Committee decided to meet through the summer to review and refine the forms that we send out to make it clearer. And it involves not only equipment and updates that they need within their departments, but it also involves technology, and it involves any building maintenance, repairs, and so forth. So we've been really working on the forms. When they're finished, they will be submitted to the town manager, and then, of course, they'll be open to all committees so that they will know. We, due to the difficulty I had last year, we didn't get an early enough start, and it made it a lot more complicated to work on it. And so now we're planning on, by the end of August, to have the packet sent to each department head.
Wonderful.
So,
Okay, thank you. All right, Planning Director's Report, Development Report statuses.
did I get the minutes back? I did I?
Yes, you did.
Yes, I did. Okay, under this, the Board of Selectmen has been working on this, and we did this we did it several times over the past years, but the one thing that they need, talking about, that they're also talking about all committees doing it, and I thought we might to get a jump on it, is the planning board's managed goals and policies. We looked at them in 2009 and 2011, but we didn't do anything formally or a direct vote on anything. So I looked through them for this meeting and decided that I would give you, each one of you, a copy of these policies, and that you can start thinking about whether you want to add to them or what other ideas that you have. So These are the planning board's mission, goals, and policies.
Here, just give me the package, thank you.
Now, last year, go, I'm sorry, is there any comment or any questions?
One page.
Yes, they're all on one
I thought it was
page.
a packet.
I thought we could put this on the agenda for a later meeting, Madam Chair.
Yeah, I think everybody needs to
I
read
like the sound
them.
of that, Madam Chair, that's kind of nice.
I think we need to, have everybody read them,
Mm-hmm.
and then if they have,
There's something on the back, too.
if they have any goals or directives they would like to see us accomplish in 2013, or even in a 5-year, plan to get from A to Z, that they would be able to bring those to the meeting and have those talked about as well. So, I think I would put this on our next meeting agenda, that people can take this home, review it.
Yes,
Come up with their
yes,
own
that was
thoughts,
my intent.
ideas, and then we can sit down and put together our goals and objectives at the next meeting.
I have my planning director's goals that I revised last year. They're public knowledge, but as you know, my primary reporting is to our town manager. And
So are these the goals you and Kerry have together?
Yeah, I haven't gone over them this year with Carrie yet, but we did talk about them last year.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
here, you better
That's
get in
yours?
there, yeah. So I'm willing to have you look at them, but like I say, those are the goals that, under my particular title, that I would like to achieve this year. If anybody has any other suggestion, I'd be very glad to hear it.
Does that work for everybody to take these, review them, if you have your own thoughts, bring them back, and we could sit down and talk about them at the next meeting?
Very good idea.
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely. That sounds great. Just want to understand in terms of what we're working towards with goals. I think it's a great idea, and we can talk about it more next time. But so are we looking goals for like the coming year for us
Yes.
as a planning
Certainly,
board?
You can extend
In
it.
5 years, I
Yeah.
want to see the planning board, not doing just this, but moving up to this. Then what in the 5 years do we need to do to make that happen?
Gotcha.
Absolutely. If there's a 1-year plan, 5-year plan, whatever your thoughts.
And my goals are relative to my position, but I want to share them, with,
Yep.
Gotcha. No, that sounds great. I mean, I think I'm looking forward to talking about this, and it may be something that we want to, have a fixed agenda item, just like we have these other things where we track our progress against our goals when we meet, just to help make sure we stay on track to do them. I'm just really excited about this component.
Totally, let's take out our goals and see.
How we're doing.
Absolutely.
we have a lot of forms for different things, so, and if any of the goals, you want to know what paperwork we use, our A&R packets, our subdivision regs and things of that sort. One thing that I would like to point out to you as a board is that we have not updated the engineering part of our rules and regulations governing the subdivision of land. It really takes a professional,
Is this on the agenda?
it's part of the goal conversation, I think, Joanna.
Okay.
And I think that that's one of the goals that we have to look forward to, is to complete, to review and update that. Okay.
Okay, absolutely. All right, next we have New England Farms.
New England Farms is ready to go. They have completed everything, and...
If I may, please,
yes,
Madam Chair.
I'm sorry.
Are the new board members familiar with what New England Farms is and where this development is?
I was waiting for Mary to finish, and then I was going to tell
Okay.
them.
Well,
That's
before
on
she
We did
starts,
talk about it last meeting.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Corner Pioneer Park.
And tell them what it is.
It's a gas station, well, it's gonna be a gas station, some type of coffee, sandwich, Cumberland Farms in North Leominster, across from the weather vane. The gentleman that built that is building this, so I'm thinking it's gonna be on that. We don't know who any of the vendors, but that concept.
So it's got nothing to do with the farm.
No, that's just the name. You're welcome.
Anyway, he has his permits, he completed his review fees, And so he is able to go in the ground. They've been doing some work because he had to work with Tennessee Gas, and that kind of held him up and had to make some changes, which we have already done and reviewed, so that he's ready to go. Our policy, gentlemen, is that we will do inspections down there. Not only will Mike do inspections for the building, but our reviewing engineer will be inspecting to see that the site is according to the plan.
Okay. Emerald Place at Lake Whalen?
Emerald Place at Lake Whalen.
So I'm sorry, Marion, I probably should have, I'm sorry, Joanne, may I ask Marion a question about?
Absolutely.
In terms of, you said they're ready to go there, do you know what their construction schedule looks like? Like, when do they plan to?
I talked to Mickey just recently, and he plans to submit a schedule for us.
Okay.
So the reviewing engineer will be able to.
So is Mickey the reviewing engineer or the owner?
Mickey Higgins, I'm sorry, he's the developer. He develops gas stations, period. He has done many in the area, and from all reports we've got, he's done them well. There's just a sentence on Emerald Place. If you recall the last report that we got from the inspecting engineer, and again, I'm to point that out to you, that we do follow these projects up to until closure. And Jesse's report was that the interior roadwork had deteriorated, and I'm expecting a schedule from the principals, and they have started with potholes because they have had some wear over the winter. And so then they'll do a top coat. So that's where that situation is. The other situation, just to remind you, that after they finish this last group of villas, they are not going to complete the last 13 at this time.
Okay, any questions on Emerald? Okay, moving on to Tri-Town Landing, Youngs Road.
Yes, Tri-Town Landing is, they had an as-built, and we had to hold them up a little bit until they submitted the as-built and got it going, and they were very anxious to get their occupancy because they were scheduled for June 1st, and they even had some people put up in hotels. So we worked very hard to get that as-built and reviewed, and the review, it says the as-built is consistent with and shows engineering site items installed. After a site walk and review of the plan, the site is as shown on the as-built plan. We recommend acceptance of the plan, and the planning board can release the site for occupancy. So
Their building's done,
yeah,
and they're moved in.
yes.
And once the occupancy permits are done, then we get the 3,000 per unit?
I just got a letter from Mr. Castleton that I've been working with the state, and now the occupancy has been submitted by Mike, and so they double-checked.
Mike Savageau?
Yes,
Okay.
the building official. And they double-checked, so they have asked Mr. Castleton, the principal, for his copies, and so therefore it's in the pipelines, so to speak, and I'll keep close track of it so that we get it. New gentlemen, we are entitled under a 40R to receive $3,000 per unit. We have received the 60...
Once occupancy permit is issued.
Once the occupancy permitted. And we did receive that for Building 1 and 2, and what we're talking about is looking forward to receiving it for Building 3. There is 4, 5, and 6 left. I have no knowledge of what they will do about that. All depends on whether this developer will work with the state, and if he has any news about going forward with that, he will let us know.
Yeah, I did drive over there today before the meeting, and people are moving in.
Yep,
So-
yep.
And
Are they going to be fully occupied?
I understand they are.
They already
Yeah.
are.
They already are?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I understand. They're very nice units.
Well, and they keep it very well, even Unit 1 and Unit 2 that now are 3 years old. they're keeping it very well, very maintained. It's a beautiful, I don't know if you've driven in, but to drive in, it's a lovely little community.
If you want to see them, I can make arrangements, to see them. The state,
We did a tour, remember we went?
yeah.
Yeah, we did a tour of the first one going up.
The state came out, and I was invited to that meeting, and the state was very pleased with the way that one went. So that's the situation with those.
Any
Just-
questions on Tri-Town?
Are you guys familiar with that project?
Yes.
I
Are
liked
you,
it better
Matthew?
as a drive-in theater.
What's
Huh?
that?
Second
I
that.
liked it better as a drive-in theater,
Did I hear him right?
but I am familiar with it, yes.
Yeah, okay. All right, Asian Imperial.
If I could, just for a second, please, Madam
Yes.
Chair and Madam Director. I don't know if you're familiar with where this 40R project is, but initially, when we created the 40R district, and as part of our zoning overlay, the town was granted $350,000 for that, and then subsequent to that is the town gets $3,000 per unit.
I'm sorry, what was the $350,000?
Just for creating this,
Was it a state grant?
yeah, it was a
Yes,
state grant.
we received that.
Once we created a 40R district, once that was voted on by the town, we were then eligible for $350,000 from the state. And then subsequent to that, when the occupancy permits were issued, we would get $3,000 per unit for that. So total benefit for this particular project to the town, I think, was supposed to be somewhere around $990,000 or so.
Before the taxes started rolling in.
And then there's also another portion of this that I don't know that we've qualified for yet. There's this section 40S, which is supplemental. So if this project for some reason didn't give us all the necessary tax dollars to educate the children that are part of that community, the state is supposed to subsidize us. As of the last pass, we did not qualify.
Well, this is advanced, if I may, Madam Chair. I am now working, and I will get some input from the state, but there will be some sort of forms for the 40S. Now, the 40S goes with the DOR, and so it's a little more complicated, and it's reflected on how any amount of students in that project affects the cost of education in the community.
Right,
So it's not a guarantee of, they decide whether we are qualified or
Right.
not.
And my question to that, Marion, is because when we were talking about the town manager's budget this year and the school choice number, there was a high number, and what the school's answer to that was is that a lot of the children from Emerald Place, Tri-Town are going to Fitchburg, Leominster. They didn't want to switch schools, and they were from those communities. So we're paying those communities. So I want to know if we would still, even though they don't attend Lunenburg, would we still get money because we're paying Leominster to educate them?
It's the whole cost of education. It's the whole pie.
But I want to make, again,
I know, Joanna,
Okay, Hugh.
what it is at this point in time, I am communicating with them, and they are reviewing this.
Right, and-
And that question I will ask specifically.
What
for you.
question are you going to ask?
I'm going to ask them if they are, what you just asked, if our people are going out for choice, does that count?
As well as the ones attending Lunenburg.
Yes.
Because I don't want them to say, well, you don't meet it because there's only 10 out of the community, when there's really 60, because 40 of them are going to other communities. So I want to make sure they have that whole number,
I will
not
make-
just the ones going to
Yeah,
Lunenburg.
the list I have is everybody who is of school age from kindergarten through 12.
Okay, perfect.
So, if I may,
Go ahead.
just to check in with these guys. So, I don't know, this was educational for me when I joined that. If you guys are already aware of this, just stop me where I'm at here. But there's another component of the project, which is, you were talking earlier, Matt, about affordable housing, and and the state actually has goals for the towns around affordable housing. Is I don't know if I forget if it's actually a percentage of total housing or if it's
10% of your housing stock.
10%. And basically, if you are achieve your goal or are making progress towards your goal, then you have increased ability to, I guess, apply your town's zoning bylaws and regulations consistently. And if you have not met the goal or are not making progress towards it, there are programs like was it 40R?
Yeah, the 40B, if you're making progress towards your affordable housing stock, it lets you keep at bay or delay any further 40B development. So if the community is making enough progress on its own, we don't have to accept additional 40Bs as long as we're making that. But if we're not making any progress to that, then we are susceptible to another 40B project coming in.
So basically, the state has taken our choice of having affordability in our town away from us.
Well, yeah, the state basically found that without some kind of mandatory goal setting, that there was, from the state's perspective,
Who
insufficient.
wants to give something away for less than it's worth? I understand, sorry.
Okay.
But yeah, so anyways, couple things I'd say about this. So one is Lunenburg. I think we're probably not even 50%
No,
towards
we're not.
The 10.
goal. And the zoning of this this housing in particular has put us on. I mean, this would contribute. I think I don't want to get this way off. I'm thinking something like 30% of the 30% of our total goal or something. I don't have the exact number, but it's a big chunk basically. And in fact, the existence of this project is what has allowed us to when the state evaluated us this year, they said that based on the activity in the town and the projects we've approved, the housing developments we've approved, that we are making progress. And this was this housing development was a big part of that. So anyways, there's just.
May I add to that, Madam Chair? I do have an inventory sheet that I just recently requested an update from the state, so I'll put it in your next packet. And we do not, I want to make this perfectly clear, we do not do 40Bs. 40Bs are done by the Zoning Board of Appeals. We work with 40Rs. And I don't know the reason for that.
Just another piece to the 40R development as far as how it works to our advantages against affordable housing is that each one of the units in the 40R development count towards our affordable housing count. So in total, I think there was supposed to be 203 units or something. All 203 units would be designated as affordable for the community, which would help our percentage to get increased. I think originally, we were only like at 1.9% of our housing stock was affordable. I think with this project, it pushed us closer to like 5.5 to 6. So.
Great.
Yeah.
What did you say the first number was, Toby?
1 point.
Well, it was only 1 point something initially. So, and versus where a 40B, there's only like 20% of the housing stock there needs to be affordable. Okay. So the 40R being 100% towards that number was of benefit to the community to do that. So,
good.
Okay.
Just one last comment on this. So big progress there towards our goals around being able to provide affordable housing in Lunenburg. I would say if for whatever reason, in terms of from a planning standpoint, if this we still have over the next several years, we got a goal of we still got to make up, Lunenburg's still growing. So think about it. We're probably halfway there. So if this type of development pattern is the way you'd like to see us meet all that goal, we have the opportunity to do more of these. If there's different ways that you think, or you want to find different ways to meet the affordable housing goal through different patterns, that's we're going into thinking about goals. I'd say that's something we're thinking about. I always get these letters wrong, but all I can say is when the projects come that we are exposed to, such as the 40Bs or whatever, where we don't have the ability to leverage our town bylaws and regulations as effectively. Those tend to be projects, from what I understand, where because of the lack of control, even if there's some good aspects to the projects, where the town across it, you tend to have like a less warm and fuzzy feeling in the town because there's less ability to influence the projects, the developments in a way that's going to accommodate needs of neighbors or achieve other master planning goals or whatnot. So that's, I think, why it's in the town's interest to be proactive about figuring out how to meet the affordable housing objectives.
Thank you, Nathan. Any other questions on Tri-Town? Okay, Asian Imperial, I see they put up the gates.
Yes, they, that was a regulation from the zoning board of appeals permit, because they were the permitting, we did the development plan review, and for whatever reason, they did not put up the gates. The chief, the police chief was very much for those gates, and now they're in compliance because they've put up and I should have brought it, I had a piece of it.
Well, I
It
think
says,
we've all seen it.
you know, the yellow chain that you can go through, okay? And then the fire chief wants to take another look at it, because he wants to realize whether he needs it double or single. He thinks the one towards the parking lot should be moved, and that can be done, but they're making every effort to do that. And they haven't had any problems, because people are not able to come in the out. And a lot of people were coming in from Electric Avenue and going out that way, just riding through the parking lot. So he's going to go down, take another look, because he wants to be sure that nobody's going to be parking there. They are looking for more parking, and I don't know what their personal interchange is with, but they have the one next to them, I guess I was told, is not a great possibility, but there might be a possibility behind them. So
Okay.
they're making an effort to do that.
Is that it on Asian?
Pardon?
Is that all you have on Asian?
Yes, yes.
I have a question.
please.
Last meeting, it was mentioned that the building inspector was going to count the spaces.
I'm sorry, say that again?
Last meeting, it was indicated that Mr. Savageau would be out there to count the spaces, make sure that they were in compliance.
Yes, yes. They meet the regulation. Apparently, the problem is, I guess I use my own daughter's example. She met 5 ladies for dinner. They came in 5 different cars, because they came from 5 different
That's the
areas.
example you gave us last
And
week.
that's, but as far as the regulation, I had Jesse and the building official check it. And they both said that it's accountable.
Okay. And the plastic fence is equivalent to a gate, which was
Yes.
an order of conditions?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Because the fire department needs to be able to drive through it, and they can't drive through the gate.
It would hurt a car, it won't hurt a fire engine. Let me see, where are we at, Ms. Chair?
One more point on Asian Imperial.
Yes.
Do the spaces run into the grass, the landscaping that are probably over the drainage and the sewage and the water?
Although
do
that
those
has been
count?
inspected and approved on site.
People have been parking on the landscaped area.
I know, we are aware of that, and they have had somebody out there telling them not to.
Okay.
But, sometimes you can't control that completely.
Well, they're
But
not
that's
like-
their problem. If they're parking on their landscaping, they should go do exactly what they do. They've had a guy out there saying you can't park there.
Well, I think the infrastructure there is probably in the landscape not designed for for vehicle loading.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Well, I'm
up
sorry,
here.
the landscaped area, I'm not sure, but I'm reasonably sure that it's not designed for vehicle loading. It's not designed for the weight of a vehicle.
I can't answer that, I'd have to check that, but apparently nothing has done damage except to damage the foliage that they put in there.
All right, and again, that would be the owner and the building official telling them the parking issue. We, as a planning board, the state bylaw says this is the number of parking spaces you need per table. And we did do the correct requirement on that.
It was a Board of Appeals approval. It was a Board of Appeals approval, though, wasn't it?
Yes, it's a Board of Appeals
We
approval.
do the development review,
Okay.
which says the number of parking spots, and really the development, but now, once everybody signs off on it, it's the zoning officer to make sure they're making those,
Mr. Savageau.
following those rules, that they're parking in parking spots, not on the vegetation, not on the drainage.
Very good.
Absolutely.
And I'm working with them by being the person who has the information
Okay.
and so forth.
So, next one is Chase Road Solar
Their status, yes. There is still negotiations going on with that, and they have sold it, or their agreement with let's see, what we used to call them, Mass PV1 LLC, and they are negotiation with Nugan Capital Management LLC agreement. And Joanna, this is a document that it is agreed by the building official for the town of Lunenburg and this Nugan Capital Management that a conditional building permit will be issued to them for the installation of a commercial solar photovoltaic renewable energy installation located at that 651. Now, so prior to any construction, because this is a conditional building permit, a revised plan shall be presented for approval, including a peer review if there is changes on that plan.
Right, because I'm under the assumption if someone goes in and buys it today and stays within the current approved plan, they get that current approved plan.
Right.
It's not that they start over from A,
You're
building a
right.
plan, is that correct?
You're absolutely
If they want
correct.
to change something on the plan or modify the plan, then it needs to come in front of us. Is
And
that correct?
That is absolutely correct. And then there are some that, I think it's section number 10, where the insurance has to be determined, and we will, and approved by us, and at the, after consultation and the expense of the applicant, they can use more than one insurance company, but that is to cover damages from structures or other site liabilities. And they must present to us an annual proof of the said insurance, and we'll date it from when if they go that far. They have to do an annual maintenance bond, shall be posted for the access road and site, and that is to be determined by us and the applicant, and the date is determined at the time of closure. The applicant shall post a bond to the town to cover the cost of removal in the event the applicant owner does not remove the arrays, say at the end of a period of time, and somebody told me this would be like 20 years, and any accessory structures within 6 months of the date that the facility ceased to be used. And
The
there's,
things you're reading right now, Marion, weren't those in the directives for?
yes, but this is from the agreement that he's making for the conditional building permit with Mr. Savageau. So I think you need to know that those are going to be included in that conditional permit. They have a permit building fee, and they owe us review money, and that they have to pay up front. Okay?
Okay,
So that's where that stands.
all right.
I just want, if I may go on to the next one, Ms. Madam
Does
Chair?
anybody have questions on 651 Chase Road, the solar? Okay, go ahead.
Just,
Oh, Nathan, go ahead.
as always, sorry. Quick question. So I just want, what's that?
It's what we're here for.
I just want to make sure I understand the, so what changed was the solar company doing the solar development and construction. The owner of the land is still the Baptist Church?
No, we're talking the one on Chase Road.
Oh, Chase Road.
We're on
Oh,
West
oh,
Street. We're
oh,
on
oh.
Chase Road, down 13.
Yeah.
Oh,
Past,
Right,
the,
right. So,
nursery.
so have they sold the land?
I don't think,
At this point, that was a sale, and then they resold it. That Mass PV1 LLC decided to flip it, and that company that I just mentioned is in negotiation with them.
So they've got the project, and they're also the contract to build and operate the solar project, and now they're also in negotiations to acquire the land from them. Okay.
But this conditional permit was designed because there's some rule in the state of a date that they had to have come to some conclusion and show proof that they could get a building permit. And that's why Mike wrote up that, he came in with me, and so I gave him the information from our prospects. And that's why that is the conditional building permit that he will issue if we get to that point, which he thinks we will.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, marijuana clinic status.
I just want to remind you that that's still out there. Some towns have made a bylaw. One was absolutely thrown out because they said never.
Right, you told us that.
Yeah,
Yep.
but I just want to keep that in
Well,
front of you.
but-
But there is, my understanding, it's either Acton or Air is, there's going to be a plan
Clinic?
before them.
Oh, wow.
Okay. And on the zoning legislation, I just want to keep you up to date.
Before we move
Oops,
on.
I'm sorry.
Before we
I have that fast lady
Well,
sitting
slow
next to
down,
me.
But slow down. You're going to let him, go ahead, Toby.
This marijuana clinic status, what is the dialogue here? Are we looking to the point that we should be looking at regulating where these can go?
Mhm.
And when are we planning on doing that? Are we planning on having something in place by the fall town meeting?
I would suspect that I would advise that, because that's what other towns are doing, but you can't write a bylaw that absolutely forbids it. So,
I understand that. This is just like the adult
Yeah,
entertainment section.
you're
We
right.
can regulate where it goes, but we can't ban it from the community.
Yeah.
So I think it's prudent upon us to start to look and think about where we would want that to be
Okay.
within the community if we had to have it.
All right.
And I thought the last conversation we had on this in the meeting, May 15, was we were looking at what the state was looking at bylaw-wise,
I
right?
don't have that information yet.
Okay.
I have it
That's where
out there
we were.
seeking it.
Kind of like the solar bylaw, we were looking what was the state's requirements, and then going from there.
Okay. Yeah, let's just.
I only know what they refused, that's all I know. Damon, just something that he just sort of looked in this direction. Do you have any information on that?
Nope.
Okay,
Just paying attention.
okay.
I have a comment. It might be a good idea if we have some strong feelings about that one way or another to put that on a note on our things to talk about next time, the department mission or goals. Yeah?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think I recall reading some of the guidelines around it. A couple things that stick out in my mind, these may be wrong, one was that towns may elect to defer the zoning of this type of clinic for some number of years. I don't remember if it was 1, 2, 3. Did that sound familiar?
No, it doesn't.
And the other thing I recall is that there's a limited number of clinics that are scheduled to be licensed in the state.
That I heard. That
I think it was like 6 or 9 or something. It wasn't a huge number.
I
Kind of like Nathan will get one. So I'd rather be prepared.
couldn't agree with you more. Okay. MRPC, we're working on, in fact, I'm in the midst of using models for a survey, and the DLTA, the Board of Selectmen want a copy of it. You all had been given a copy. I don't know whether the 2 new members, did I give you a copy of that from MRPC? I thought I did. And so the first phase is going to be the economic development. Madam Chair, the past configuration of the board said that they wanted to be the committee. So as it stands as it is today, that the planning board will be the committee that will review the master plan as we work out these elements. I think you might want to explore that with the board.
I don't understand the question.
Neither do I, I'm sorry.
Years, in the past configuration of the planning board, you had decided as a board that you wanted to be the committee that's working strictly on the master plan.
Instead of making another committee.
And instead of having a half and half committee, so many members of the board, so many from the public, or have a subcommittee. And I want to know, and need to know, if that's where you stand today.
My position was is that the planning board owns the master
That's right.
plan.
You're absolutely right.
And what we would, I'm not adverse to looking at options, but where we also incorporated the community at some point in time when we
Yeah, we
started doing envisioning sessions and things
Right.
like that, yes. But for overall, all intents and purposes, the planning board owns the master plan.
Or are you thinking, Marion, that you want to create something like the charter, that you have people at large, you have someone from the selectmen, a couple people from planning?
I don't think
I don't know
that,
what you're,
what other communities do, they usually use either their planning boards, and they take a couple members at large. You have 5 members, you could have a 7, and you could take some, and it doesn't necessarily mean from another committee, because in the essence, in the end, you'll be reporting to the or presenting to the community and to the board, through the board of selectmen.
when is MRPC coming to start to tell us what
In
they're going to?
July, probably in the second meeting, the end of July.
So what I would say is one of the questions for MRPC at that meeting would be, what would their recommendation be? Do they want to work with just the 5? Do we want to get a couple of at-large residents involved and then go from there and then form that committee based on the recommendations from MRPC if they're going to kind of be our consultant towards the master plan?
Okay.
Nathan?
Yeah, I think that I would be interested. I think that's a good plan, Joanna, and I would be interested to hear what the MRPC has to say. In general, I think this idea of engaging, select members of the community who express a strong interest in different issues that we're responsible for, and engaging them to help us move our agenda forward quicker by having them work with forming whatever subcommittees, whatever you want to call them, with some one or two members from us, and then kind of pushing things forward, reporting back to us so that we can give them guidance. We can say, get our opinion in. I mean, the planning board still has, authority over these functions, but I think we can do more faster, I guess, and maybe even, get more bandwidth in terms of, yep.
Absolutely, I
So
agree.
that is a model for whether it's master planning or economic development or a few different things, I think is pretty interesting to me.
The name of the element that we will be using first, beside the Delta DLTA, is economics, which will include the center, and which the new school formation will be affecting that too. So that's going to take a while. I do have with me, Madam Chair, the copies of the first Delta. So if you, I'm just
give me the
afraid.
packets, it's longer by giving, thank you. There you go. All right.
Okay, I'm going to table conservation.
Okay.
I had a list of their hearings, but they've already been held.
Oh, they're all past due?
Yeah.
Can you kind of whip through who's doing what?
I don't have it with me,
Oh,
Joanna.
okay, no problem.
But I can do that.
Not a problem.
Okay.
All right, summer meeting schedule, June 24th. I talked with Marion today. She's going to be on vacation the week of the 24th, so she's asked that we do not have that meeting. There's not a lot, we don't have any public hearings. We're not meeting with MRPC till July, the July 8th meeting. So I did not know if that would be okay to cancel the June 24th. Well, we're going to cancel the June 24th because she's not going to be here. So we can either reschedule or just have the one meeting in June. And that's up to the board. What would you like to do?
This is called the summer schedule.
Yeah, no, the summer's always because everybody's on vacation, and if there's 2 of you on vacation, we don't have a quorum. So it's tougher in the 2 summer months. But what works for you?
We've already gone a month.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did.
Lost one meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I understand why we'd want to lose another one.
Okay,
Well,
so
because
then
the preparation for the meeting, I will not be here.
Right, we've already said we're not doing June 24th.
Okay. Now, the other thing is, can I ask, Madam Chairman, that the board members give me
Marion,
their...
Toby's talking.
I'm sorry, I
That's
didn't hear
okay.
him. I can't hear up here
That's
tonight.
okay.
Did the board already make the decision not to have the June 24th meeting?
No, Marion's not going to be here June 24th, so we can't have the meeting without Marion. who's going to give us a readout of everything going on in the planning board. We can have a meeting, but we won't have any director's reports or anything to go on. So we would need to reschedule the week before, or the week after her vacation.
Unless we wanted to do something like focus on goals, maybe.
Or the master plan, something like that.
Or the, right,
The
but,
master plan won't be ready for that meeting.
I feel that we've got enough stuff to keep us quite busy.
and that's fine. So looking at calendars, we would need to do,
The week after,
the
Joanne?
week, either the week of June 17th or the week of July 1st. I would prefer the week of June 17th.
Yep.
Because July 1st week is the 4th of July.
Okay, yeah, on the Monday, June 17th, I have a school building committee meeting.
Okay. Tuesday, the 18th, we could do, if the Ritter's available, which I think it is.
It is.
I mean, have we definitively excluded the scheduled day? And if,
Well, yes, I don't feel we can have a meeting, a productive meeting, without the director present to give us the readout of what's going on in the planning board. Unless we want to talk about master planning or even goals and objectives, I think without the planning director here as part of that.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I mean, yeah, obviously, you know, we will miss Marion. I think goals is something we, you know, if we want to say, hey, let's just have this one meeting, sort of talk about goals. I think that could work. And Marion could review them when she gets back and provide us with additional input, because I don't think it'll be the final word on goals, but I think getting a draft of our goals, if we wanted to use that meeting time, might be
That's fine.
something. Marion, would you be comfortable with that?
If you have the goals that were done before, so there'd be no problem. I do feel strongly that I provide the background information. As you know, I'm not a decision maker. And I just thought that we would go much more smoothly if we didn't have it the week that I was on vacation. And again, Madam Chairman, I don't mean to prolong this at all, but I need to know what the other people's vacation is, so we know what meetings we would have a quorum at.
Well, they can email you that, and then we can.
They can
put a
email me that.
Yeah, and put a calendar together if you want.
Yeah.
I'm also okay, I mean, next Tuesday works for me as well.
Okay.
That's up to the board. I can do the 24th, I can do,
Could we do excuse me, could we do what Nathan suggests, have it another week in the close by? Because you know, you'd have a whole week to look at your goals. Okay.
what works for you? Can you guys do the 18th?
I'm open, go for it.
Toby?
I have no preference.
Okay, so on the 18th, we will have a regular scheduled meeting, but what we'll do, Marion, if you can block out a set of time, and we'll focus on the goals.
Okay. Okay. That will-
I guess the only thing that I would say on the topic,
Yes, please.
Madam Chair, is that there should be the ability to get data prior to the June 24th meeting that we could take a look at to have that meeting. These meetings don't stop just because one person's absent. If I, as the chair, weren't here, you stepped in as the vice chair and did that. So I would expect from a planning perspective is we could have whatever it is that we want to discuss prepared ahead of time in her absence to have that conversation. I'm just saying that, you know,
Okay, and I am very comfortable doing that.
I'm just saying we shouldn't have to do that because somebody's...
As when Kerry's not there, the Board of Selectmen still run their
They still
meeting.
meet.
And when
Yeah.
Sewer Commission Barbara's not on vacation, they still have their meeting.
Yeah.
So we will stay on the
Not that I
24th.
wouldn't prefer to have our planning director there, but we can't always count on that, you know.
So we will have,
Unfortunately, she's had an accident before, and we've had to meet without her.
Yes.
So I don't really see this as any different than that scenario.
Well, it's a summer schedule, that's why I proposed it.
So
okay.
I would propose...
So we will stay on the 24th.
Sounds good.
Matthew? Okay, moving on. The 24th it is.
Yeah, before we move on, if we're going to do goals on the 24th, I'm wondering, do the selectmen meet before then?
They meet every Tuesday.
They meet every Tuesday, sorry, I should probably know
Yeah,
that.
that's okay.
So question is,
Except
do you
for
think it makes sense, I mean, we have plenty of time to get this in, but I'd be curious if we're going to go and we're going to take as a piece of homework to think about, to review the past goals and think about things that we as board members think are important for consideration by the board, the things for goals over the next year and perhaps beyond. And I'm wondering if it would make sense to solicit some input from the Board of Selectmen if they wanted to provide any input in that process. I feel like.
To our goals?
Into our goals, yes.
Did we,
No, we haven't, the thing is, the Board of Selectmen represent the town in general in some respects, and I also, and we.
but they're the executive body. I was elected
No,
by the residents to do planning and zoning.
I understand
Two
that.
separate.
I guess my feeling is if they.
Like,
if
they
they're-
didn't call me and say, Joanna, what do you think my goals for selectmen, what's your input
Okay.
for our goals?
Maybe they haven't, but I do know that I don't remember whether it was a town meeting or just off the cuff in person. I know that the Board of Selectmen have goals which they depend on our work to achieve. So for example, economic development, for example, is an example where, the town has a budget and we need to achieve certain revenue. And so I think it was at this town meeting, they were talking about how looking into things to help accelerate economic development of the town in smart ways for the purpose, among other things, of positively impacting our tax base was something that was kind of a hot topic. So, they're responsible for the budget. I think they're valuable stakeholders, as well as the community at large. I mean, if the community at large wanted to send email to Marion and bring up things that they felt were important, that would be useful input too.
Oh, absolutely, and maybe I misspoke, but if one of the selectmen has a thought or an idea and emails Marion
Yep.
and says, I was watching the selectmen show and I saw you doing goals, and I think this would be a great, I wouldn't say no, but to have a workshop or a dual meeting with the selectmen to discuss our goals, I don't think is.
Yeah, I'm not looking to do a meeting.
Oh,
I'm just
okay, I'm-
saying something like at their meeting, give them an update, or outside of their meeting, just give them a communique saying, hey, planning
Paula
board.
updates them on our meetings every
Meetings.
time.
Right.
It's like a committee report.
Okay.
Yeah, so
So-
Paula would say, and I'm sure Paula will, by attending meetings, might have a couple ideas.
Sure.
That she would email Marion to put into.
Okay, I just want to make sure that it's understood from my perspective that feedback's welcome
Oh,
and even
the feedback's welcome
solicited.
from anybody.
Yep.
The residents as well. If the residents are
Absolutely.
watching and they say, hey, I really want you to work on that, absolutely, we would never say, I would hope, no to anybody.
No,
That's our
I
goal.
understand, yeah, and so everybody knows, we're meeting the 24th. If they want to get input, good time to get it in, because we're working on setting our goals. Better to get it in now than to get it in 6 months and say, why haven't you worked on X?
Could we have public hearing on something like that for community input?
Eventually, yes. Eventually, and I am preparing a survey.
That was my next
yeah.
question. Excellent.
I hope to get it done today, but we get interrupted.
And perhaps if people did attend that meeting, we could, open it up a little bit,
Oh, yeah,
give
no,
them some time to.
absolutely.
Okay.
All right, so our next meeting is June 24th, then July 8th and 22nd, and then August 12th and 26th. So if those 4 dates come as a hot button for some people with on vacations, or just give Marion a quick email, so if she could start to determine if we have a quorum. Okay? All right, members' issues. I've got a couple thoughts and suggestions. Marion, I was watching the Joel Bard presentation on open meeting, and he focused a lot on agendas and meetings, and I know Kerry had to redo the selectmen's agenda, and I think our agenda needs some of those. So I don't know if you and Marjorie have watched that.
I sat down with Marjorie and went all the way through it with her. We
Okay.
spent maybe almost 2 hours
Okay,
going
'cause
over it. And so that she would be aware of all of the changes too.
Okay, because the agenda hasn't changed.
No, it has not.
Okay,
Because
all right.
we,
I just want to make sure. And then I'm going to go back on packets. She emails them, but I don't want, or Nathan, I know the Board of Selectmen get their packets with their agenda, all their information. The sewer commissioners get their packets with all their information, and I need a packet with all my information.
did I not send you a packet with all your
You
information?
did it in email. I don't want it in email. I want a hard copy of my packet.
Oh, well, the packet isn't prepared until we do the agenda. Can I email you and then copy you with a hard copy? Or do you have to have a hard copy before our meeting? Then we'd have to mail it on Thursday. You'd get it Saturday. Yeah, we could do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know how everybody, but it's like, did I print that one? I didn't print this one. My printer's jammed. Like Jay, in the mail comes his packet and he sits and reads it.
Okay.
Yeah, I can understand why where Joanna would want it. I personally don't, electronic works for me.
Okay. Anybody else?
Electronic works for me as well, but when we got the information about the public hearing that was held tonight, the information that I received via email was only a very small portion of it. I had no idea the length of the requested and the granted waivers. I had no idea.
That was in the packet. That
It was this-
thing that he went
tonight.
through.
Tonight,
is-
right,
yeah.
about 10 minutes before the public hearing.
But that was supposed to have been was sent to you, is when I reviewed the packet. You,
I did receive some information about it, but I did not receive everything that's in this
You-
packet. And it's all got the same receive date.
well, I'll look into that, Matthew, but what went out was the Hannigan Engineering
Yep.
copy. That went out completely to you, is what he went through tonight. I mean, they're more explicit here, but everything that I got in.
I read pretty much everything that I received. I've
Okay.
actually read all.
All right, I'll watch
that.
that.
You gave me from cover to cover as well.
Pardon?
Thank you.
The 4 documents that you gave me
Yeah,
2 months ago. I've read cover to cover.
thank you.
The only thing that I would add to that, Marion, is that, like the thing that you read relative to the building official for the changes for Chase Road, is for there to be copies for the board to take a look at and read when we're here.
You'd like him here because I didn't have it
Yeah,
on Thursday.
but you didn't have it, but when you have it.
You want a
If it's
copy?
not part of the package, it should be a copy that we
All
should
right,
take
a
a look
copy
at
for
and read
each of
here.
you
Because
on anything.
sometimes I lose something in the translation from your reading it to my own interpretation of it.
Okay, so Joanna wants a hard copy. The rest of you are satisfied with it coming through your emails?
Yeah, I'm good with the email as long as it's
Okay.
complete.
And anything that comes in later than what we have.
But anything you're gonna,
We'll have a copy.
anything you're looking at,
Yeah.
they should be looking at.
Okay.
We should be looking at.
All right, thank you.
Definitely.
Yeah, should be looking at.
Yeah.
And the next thing I have, and then I'll go to you guys, I'm sorry, open space. I'm watching the Selectmen's meeting, and they're talking a lot about the open space committee, what the open space committee did, Chapter 60 land, what we have, what we don't have. And, you know, we've been doing this for 2 years. Tom Botkin brought this up 2 years ago. You gave us a list. We kind of been looking at that, and we've said we want to prioritize, we want to be ahead of the schedule. So I just want to make sure that that becomes on our agenda, and that anything, if you as the open, because I know you're on open space, if you're providing stuff to the selectmen, that we're included in that,
Yes.
because it's still part of ours as a planning department, and I don't want to get lost in that. And then there's another committee talking on Chapter 60 land, and the planning department's not involved in that. So I just want to make sure from the get-go that we're involved, it's on our agenda, and we're following the track with the selectmen, because I know that's something Tom has been adamant about for 2 years.
Joanna and Madam Chair, I have prepared a list, several lists, and I can scan those and send them out to the board tomorrow, but I can't hard copy that to you. I'll put them on your email, and so that you
That's
know you
fine.
have them, and
That's
then I'll
fine.
hard copy it
That's
to
fine,
you.
that's
Okay.
fine. And I use my
And that-
email all the time.
Yeah.
I have a BlackBerry, but for me, I like to write notes, and so when I
Okay,
come, I have my
that's fine.
questions written.
That's fine, there's no problem. These lists consist of town-owned land, conservation land, tax title land, there's one more, but I have it all together, and I'll get it to you, and through the email, we'll scan them and get it through.
Fantastic.
Yes.
But that's what, I just want to make sure what the planning director's giving out on all of that, that we, as a planning board,
Or
have all
get
that
a
as
copy
well.
too. Mhm.
So
Okay.
that's all I could think of for me this week on my members' issues. Does anybody else have any?
I do.
Yes.
Last meeting, it was brought up, the 6160A, something, and I believe it was Nathan that brought it up, and we were told that we would be getting documentation to explain it.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you up here tonight for some reason.
I'm sorry. The last meeting, we had come up with some questions about chapter land, and my understanding was that we would be getting some information.
Yes, I have a list of chapter land for you.
No, but what 60, chapter 60 is?
Oh,
I think
you
that-
want
I
an
think that's what-
Tom
explanation?
Bodkin
I'm not sure.
emailed
I'm-
us the big booklet on chapter 60 land. He had scanned that and emailed all of us. I think I have it. I can forward it to you.
Would you please?
And then you,
Because I'm
but he's
losing-
looking for what chapter 60 land is, what the rules, the regs, all of that stuff.
No, I'm sorry, I was just looking for something that Nathan had requested and said he would be provided, and I was kind of interested in getting it as well. Do you remember, Nathan?
Yeah, it was, yeah, unfortunately, my memory's, it'd be great if I could remember what
I think we were talking about open space, and we were asking how many, what available properties are there in town that, and what.
Yeah, that's
and I
what the
think
list is.
my question was, I believe, if there was limitations on what the town could do with chapter land that it acquired.
Okay,
If there were
Okay.
uses
that's what it was,
The
yes.
open space, and you, does everybody have a copy of the open space? I'd have to get it through conservation because we gave them all out, except for an office copy that I have. Did you get a copy of open space, Damon?
I don't think so.
Okay, I'll see to it that you get a copy of the open space element that the state approved. There is, we have talked as a planning board, Board of Selectmen has talked about this too, and they are asking the Open Space Committee for this information, and that is so they know what is in chapter, and that the planning board and probably the Board of Selectmen, if there is a parcel of land that, do you know that's going to come up in chapter? Not personally owned land, but land that's in chapter, and one that's have some idea of whether and this would assist whether the town buys it or not buys it, whether they put it before the town meeting or not town meeting. A parcel of land that might prove to be beneficial economically or some other way to the town, that with that information, as we study that kind of thing, and that's part of the open space study, we would be ready if that property came up to say to the community, this is, because the planning board has asked for opinion and the Conservation Commission, and it's a Board of Selectmen decision. And then by doing that, they can ask the town through a town meeting, let's purchase this particular property because we can do thus and so, which will be beneficial to the town of Lunenburg. And that's the study that is going to be on. That's one of the action plans of the open space element.
That's great, yeah.
Okay.
But, you know, that isn't going to be done tomorrow, but we're working on them.
Well, and again, anything that's being done and going out to other boards through the planning office, I would just like us to have copies of that as well.
And you can.
Perfect. Any other?
I need to figure out, because we're going to have to copy them. You have an open space, because I gave them to every member of the board at the time. You do. Toby does. So I need to get 2 copies prepared for Nathan and Matthew.
Damon.
Okay. Damon, I'm sorry.
Okay, perfect. Matthew, did you have more?
Did we skip over zoning legislation, or was that just this handout?
The zoning legislation, I just wanted you to be up to date that they did have a public hearing. This has been going on for many years, and it is a revision of 40A. We're supposed to be sort of antiquated in it throughout the states, other states, and so forth. And there has been actually 2 active committees in the state that have been working on it. They're coming to more or less towards the end of it, and they did have a public hearing in Boston on it, but I have not seen where that changed anything in the first part of it. I think I have the latest copy, at least a summary, and I'll try to get that together for you, okay?
Perfect.
And one more thing,
Yeah,
of course.
no, that's fine.
The last meeting, we also mentioned the intersection of Goodrich and Lancaster, and it hasn't come up this meeting. I thought we were going to talk about that.
There was nothing more to talk about it at this point. It is being investigated by MRPC. We asked them for a traffic count on the four-way up and down Mass.
Did they do that yet?
No, they
That's
have
what
not
he's
done
looking-
it.
No, I was online and I found that there have been 3 traffic counts performed on Lancaster Ave in the last decade.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, I cannot hear you, Matthew.
There have been 3 traffic counts performed on Lancaster Ave in the last decade.
Yes, there has been, but they asked for the new ones,
Okay.
so that's what we submitted. I submitted that one.
The problem with that intersection is the bushes in the right-of-way.
Well, that's private property, that's...
No,
that's-
it's the right-of-way. It's
Yeah.
the road right-of-way. It's the town's.
That is not what I've been told, but I will recheck it, have it rechecked. But I've been told it belongs to the people that owns that parcel of land right there.
The trees may belong to them, but the property does not.
Okay, if you got that,
Could we
It's-
send Jack to look at that?
Well,
Would
yeah,
that
I
be-
mean, they're
don't
well
know.
within the right-of-way, and the site distance is horrible coming out of Goodrich Street, and you can't see anybody
Hey.
that's coming out, and they can't see you coming at them.
and
that's
he's
the only
absolutely
problem.
right.
Yeah, no,
But there's no traffic study required, it's just cutting down those bushes so people can see each other.
I'm told, and I will investigate this further, because we can't make that decision here, that we'll have to have it looked up. I've been told by the DPW director and the service agencies that was on private property, and the woman refused to cut them. She doesn't want her bushes cut, which, I can understand on private property. But if you have further information about that, I will check it out, because I've not heard that it was on town-owned land.
Does the town of Lunenburg have a road book? Is there a book that
I have
contains-
no knowledge of any book, no road book, but I can ask the DPW director about a road book.
Okay, there should be a layout for the road, and it would show edge of pavement and edge of right-of-way.
Have you seen this book at all?
I have not. I was questioning if it actually exists.
Okay, I'll see what I can do about that.
Be good, thank you.
Have you been on the GIS at the old town website at all, Matt?
Lunenburg GIS?
Yeah, they actually got like a Esri database with a web interface, and it has a bunch of layers. You might just check. It might have road and right of way. I'm not sure, but it's
It's probably got roads, but not, I don't think.
I don't think that's right away.
Yeah,
no.
it would
Jack
be,
would have the information, though.
Yeah, Jack would know.
Okay, but
Okay. Any other ones?
that would be the town clerk or the town engineer, and since we don't have a town engineer.
we don't have a town engineer.
Likely be
It
the
would
town
go to
clerk.
Jack.
Anything else?
Not for me.
Damon?
I think we've talked enough tonight.
Kobe?
I'm good.
Nathan?
I'm all set. Thanks, Joanne.
And I would, there's no board comment, public comment. Now, Toby, just where this is my first night as chair, can I have a point of clarification or point of order? I went, when the last MMA meeting we attended as planning board members, open meeting law, and again at Joel Bard's training, when you go into an executive session, you have to have the name of why you're going, what you're going in executive session for, because they have a right, once this case is over, to get the minutes. So Marion has an update that she wants us to go in executive session, but it doesn't list the name. So I had said maybe we should wait, but I want to gather your thoughts. But this is my first night as chair.
Yeah. In this particular scenario, knowing what it is, I guess I would prefer that it would be on the agenda. But typically, if it would be reasonable to expect that it was a conversation that we would have, it would be okay to go into executive session. Where I don't know that it's clear here tonight, I would think that we perhaps should defer.
And with your permission, I'm going to also check with Joel to make sure that in the future that we have, it couldn't have
Yeah, well,
gone
it
on
was-
this agenda because I didn't get it until this afternoon.
That's okay.
Okay.
I wonder if we could find out if it would be appropriate, just given the nature of the situation, to just have a regular executive session scheduled whose title is update with respect to this particular matter. That way, if we're in this situation again, we get something, we might be able to have enough coverage.
I'll
to
find out
discuss
how
it.
to word it
Yeah.
legally, so that we don't make a
And
mistake.
he gave examples in the presentation.
Yeah.
How to put it on the agenda. And during the presentation, there were specific examples.
The agenda, people, is formulated on Thursday before the Monday night meeting, because we have to have it posted then. We
Right.
can't, we're not open on Friday,
Yeah.
and
Okay,
they don't post on Friday.
Yeah, I mean, just as a board member who's named in the lawsuit or whatever, I would like to have a regular bi-weekly update on the status of the case I am named as a defendant in, or whatever. That would be great.
I will also ask the town council if there's any way we can do that.
That'd be excellent. Thanks a lot.
Okay. So at this time, I would accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I will see you all on the 24th.
Very good.
Good night and sleep well.
Name was Jason Vio. Well, Jason has gone on to have a stellar career. In 2011, Jason Vio and David Starobin founded a new guitar program at one of the premier schools for music in the world, the Curtis Institute in Philadelphia.